I'm here to talk to you today about a program that's going on at Ryerson University. This is put on by the Aerospace Department, and we are taking an Air Hogs Titan glider and we're converting it into a radio-controlled plane. Now, this is meant to be a trainer plane, and it's handed out to the high school students so that they can practice flying RC planes and then eventually do some indoor pylon racing. Okay, when you take the main plane out, it has a nice solid fuselage. There's two wings that slide into each side. So the first thing you need to do is assemble your plane. Press the wings in all the way. Now the reason we want to do this is because we need to figure out where the center of gravity of the plane is. When you press the elevator in, make sure you put it in so that it's in the horizontal position. It has two positions. If you put it in this way, it's actually meant to do a loop when you fly. So try to put it in so that it's in the most horizontal position. Now once you've got it all assembled, what we want to do is to figure out where the center of gravity of the plane is. So to do that, you need to put your two fingers underneath the wings and to balance the plane and figure out roughly where it balances. Okay. Now I've made a mark on the bottom of the plane, so you can see roughly where it is here. This is the center of gravity underneath the plane. Now the reason we want to do that is so that when we assemble all of our RC components on the plane, it'll still be balanced afterwards. Okay, so I'm going to disassemble the plane now. And we're going to put most of these components aside. We're going to use the tail to work on first. Now we're going to only use tail controls for this plane, so we'll only be using a rudder, which will be mounted to the vertical stabilizer, and we'll be using an elevator, which will be mounted to the horizontal stabilizer. So this is what the elevator will look like when it's done, and the rudder will fit on something like this when it's done. Okay, so there are a few cuts that you need to make. Now some people do this in a couple of different ways. Some people actually split the elevator into two halves because of the V shape here, and they control either with two servos or they control it with two control lines going to each side, but just done with one servo. Other people have put ailerons on the outer wings of the plane. We're not going to do that for this because the plane has lots of dihedral. It does not need the ailerons to fly, to be nice and stable for flight. Okay, it's also a little simpler if you happen to crash the plane and break a wing. It's a lot easier just to either repair the wing without having to bother with the aileron linkage. And also, if it's a really bad crash, you can just go to the local store and buy another plane for between $10 and $15 and just use the wings out of that new plane to repair your plane. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is to take our elevator, and we're going to take a straight ruler, and we're just going to cut this straight across. Okay, so the best way to do it is to look at how much material is left on each end down here, and center your ruler that way. And then just make a small mark on each end, just so you know where your ruler is in case it moves. Now, take a nice sharp X-Acto knife with a new blade and just cut the styrofoam along the line. Okay, try to do it in a couple of cuts. If you try to do it in one cut, you can sometimes tear the styrofoam. So now that I have my cut, I'm just going to remove the ruler. Try to finish this off. Now when we put our horizontal stabilizer on, we can actually get a nice movement, okay, the hinge. Now we're going to put our horizontal stabilizer like this. You've been given some control horns which will fit in the foam like this, and this should be on the right hand side, Okay? And what we're going to do is we're just going to take some hockey tape and we're going to make a hinge across here to tape it. Okay? Now, when you tape this together, it will flip up, but in order for it to flip down, you need to have some relief behind the bottom of this. So we're going to take the control horn off for the moment, and we're going to trim the bottom edge of the horizontal stabilizer. Okay, so I'm just going to put my ruler here. I'm going to take my knife and just cut it about between a 45 and 30 degree angle. And we're just going to cut along here, and just to remove any excess material. And again, you should try to do this in a couple of cuts. Don't try to do it in one cut or you'll tear the foam. Okay, so now that's our clearance. So now when we put it together, we should have lots of room for our elevator travel. Okay? I'm just going to put this aside for now. Now we're going to look at our rudder. Now if you look at the vertical stabilizer, it has a curved surface here. So we're going to take our rudder and we're going to lay it on top, and we're going to figure out just how much we're going to remove from this section of the plane. So I'm just going to lay this here. Now you should have a bit of clearance between the top of your rudder and the vertical stabilizer, just so it allows the movement of the rudder. I'll line this up. I'll make a light line with my pencil. Okay. And I'm just going to trim this off with my ruler. Now we have a nice straight edge here for the hinge line. When we put our rudder on it, you can see that it will turn nicely. Okay, now in this case, we're going to be putting the control horn on the left side, so the control horn will go over here. Okay, now I'm going to leave these aside for now. Now we need to mount two components on the fuselage. One will be the motor mount. Now we've given you a motor mount that already has the motor connected to it, and all the wiring is on it. Okay, the propeller's on it as well. Now this will be mounted such that the leading edge of this is at about the midpoint of the cord. Okay, so if you want to look at the midpoint of the cord, you can see we're in roughly the middle here. Or if you'd like to measure back from, there's a little mold line here. If you'd like to measure back from where this cockpit area is, it's about 6 inches. Okay. So it's 6 inches, the ruler will be upside down for you, but it will be 6 inches here, okay? And we're going to mount that motor mount here, so I'm just going to make a little mark where that goes, okay? And you can just travel along the sides of it just to get an idea how long it is. That, mark it there. And then we have also another mount that's used for the servos. Now this will be the servo mount. It comes together in your kit as 2 pieces, and you have to put it together and glue it. Okay, I've glued this one ahead of time, so I'm just going to continue on with this. So this will be mounted in this area here. So I'm just going to take a pencil again and mark roughly where it's going to go. Now, when you cut the foam out, we're just going to cut a slot here, and you only need to go about 1/4 inch to 1/2 inch deep. Now for the motor mount, there's a line here that's been scribed by our laser. We laser cut these out for you, and there's a line that's scribed here, and that's the depth to which this will sit. So when it fits in, it's only going to go down to this line here. Okay, so it's a little over 1/2 inch. So again, take a sharp knife and just cut down. And now you only want to cut about 1/8 of an inch wide. Don't cut it too wide because you want your mount to be snug when it fits in.